Take it away, Erik.
Thank you very much. Well, let's get started. As just introduced, this is going to be focused on live workflows and talk about like why is it so hard, but why is it so worth it to do? As you know, obviously live is tricky because you have no chance to mess up. You got to do it now. You got to do it right every single time. You have to do it exactly when it's supposed to happen. Those are sort of the natural things that one would expect, but there's more than that. So let's kind of walk through and talk through it for a little bit. As a little background, just so you know who I am and where we're from, MediaKind. So we specialize in live workflows. We do the tech stacks for a large number of different companies. When you think about live, obviously we're going to focus a lot on sports and those types of content because of the value of sports, the ephemeral value of watching a game, and hardly anyone ever watches a recorded game unless you're trying to catch up on tactics or other things like that, or you're on the other side of the world and you just couldn't wake up and you somehow turn off Twitter and all the other feeds that you may have for the game. But so obviously we have a lot of customers in that, but we also have a lot of other customers across the other parts of the live delivery chain, as well as standard asset delivery. And we provide a large variety of parts of those workflows for there. We do both the streaming parts, which are sort of the key video workflow parts of it, and then we also do the management pieces for it, being able to sort of control access, be able to manage individual subscribers and access to individual pieces for that. And then obviously for here, we're going to talk about enhancements for it and aspects of how AI is used in all of these different parts of the business. So why live? What like is there, just to make it really concrete for everyone here, like what is the value of live? Okay, I will focus here in numbers from live sports because that's I think the preeminent example. But there's plenty of other news and events, like Academy Awards, etc., and all that are also have the same sort of values from them. So as you can see, 90% of the top U.S. broadcasts were live sports. Okay. That makes it pretty clear right there. It's just the highest rate of anything. That's when you have those simultaneous audiences that are all tracked there. And what does that result in? Well, 1.5 to 2 times higher CPMs, or that's for just streaming, or the equivalent sort of ad spot payments that you would have for there. Everyone thinks about the Super Bowl and the $7-10 million 30-second slots, but it trickles down to everything, to every NBA game, to MLS games, to etc., to lacrosse and everything like that. Those live viewing events, they demand much higher value for the advertising. Why is that? Why are they getting those higher ones? Well, one part of it is certainly the elimination of the ad skipping. People are going to watch the ad because there's no way you can move forward in time. So you're guaranteed the ad is going to get played. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is those audiences, they're watching it there for a reason. This is a reason that they're watching. So they're going to be paying attention for the most part to the ads, and certainly that's why they put so much more effort into the creatives, for those types of ad slots. Strong co-viewing is a big part of it too. For when you talk about brand affiliation, all the other parts that, the marketing teams, the advertising units, they see the value of it. So, and then not last but not least are the long-term sponsorship deals pieces. So when you think about how the NBA makes money, they make money from people getting in the stadiums, merch, selling the rights, but also a big part of it is their sponsors. In fact, if you look overseas, you look at the English Premier League, their money is actually really equal between the sponsorships and the live rights that they sell. And so, having, live is a unique place where someone will want to come in, and even if it's seemingly nothing related to the sport, they'll still want to come in and be affiliated with the sport, and have that long-term deal to lock in those revenue streams for the league or the individual team or whoever it is that they're sponsoring for it. So as you can see, that a huge amount then of value is seen by the rest of the market for live sports. Let's talk here about live sports streaming as well. The growth, we've always been talking about it, but now, so much of it is real here, and all the dollars are shifting over much more rapidly than, maybe we had expected 2 years ago. As you can see, just huge numbers growing up, the number of live events. The Olympics was huge for Peacock, for NBCU, and especially on Peacock with that. Also, the NFL game that NBCU showed as well, or Peacock showed on Peacock as well, in terms of the audience size of, I think it was, now I can't remember, it's like 40 million simultaneous viewers, huge numbers that they would have. It's now, as people, as the demos have moved forward and people are used to sort of and want to and expect to be able to access it in a way other than the classic cable package, all the disruption that's going in the operator space in terms of where their consumers are fleeing away from. They're all looking to go and have it, consume it from a streaming standpoint too. So you'll continue to see more and more of this and more change and disruption going on. This could be a whole 5-hour topic in itself to go through. So where does AI then play? Okay, so we've established that the workflows are difficult just from the immediacy point of view. It's also difficult from you have to be extremely reliable, you have to be planful, you have to be able to troubleshoot and deal with things instantly because there's so much value, so much money riding on that event and that here and now. And traditionally, it's been done, by huge amount of redundancy, but you're building it for an event that's like 2 or 3 hours. And it's super expensive to be able to do that. And so with so much demand for this type of live, both from the advertising view, not just from a consumer point of view, the advertisers are obviously following consumers, but the advertisers looking at it, they're looking to expand their portfolio and get, like, how can we get more live events? How can we do more? Everything like that. And the traditional ways of just massive truck rolls and building a lot of equipment out redundantly in order to have that high reliability, it's just not cost effective, except for those premium, those biggest, those highest tier events. So a big part of it is operational excellence for it. So one of the things that we do support for our customers is we have a natural language way for them to be able to set up an event. So that way they can literally in their native language, and especially great for international and when you're supporting and creating an international event as well, is that you can then sort of say, okay, we're going to have how many cameras are set up in this, this venue, and which ones were they facing? Okay, let's have this one set up. We're going to move this one through here. This sort of workflow, we're going to do this set up. So you can go through and do all that type of stuff, and you could have people, different nationalities, double checking things and doing all those things like that. And we'll do all, rather than the traditional way of cables and IP addresses and, all the messes that sort of happen with that. It's a way to be able to do it. So there's one, I think, key sort of thing that's really been helpful for our customers. The second one is agent-based validation. So how do you then have an AI agent that then goes and is built totally separately and goes through and just runs through and double checks everything for you and just make sure that you've really done it correctly and there haven't been any hiccups or something hasn't been changed in the meantime. And it's just constantly running in the background and really being that expert to be able to say, cross-reference everything with that. There's another big opportunity that we're seeing in pushing more into utilizing AI for. And then the last but not least, that continuous troubleshooting, for it. So while the event is actually going through and looking at all the sort of alternative paths that could be there, validating whether or not they're actually still operational, sending some test signals through those while the operation is going on, so that way in preparation for a possible fail, then you know that your failover is good, it's green, et cetera. There's a lot of different opportunities now and more investing towards that as well. And that really also goes back to the fact that it's cloud infrastructure as well. I guess that was the assumption at the start of this. The baseline is that, with that cloud infrastructure, you can be able to spin up more alternative ones for the events and be able to turn them down and be able to provide that certainly super high level of reliability. Advertising, though, is a whole nother area, and this goes back to one of the things that I first talked about in terms of the demand for more content, the demand for watching more live games. Well, a good example is AG based here. They also own the Berlin Ice Barons of the German Hockey League, and so they have access to all the German Hockey League games, actually be able to bring them over to the U.S. or actually wherever they want to be able to do that. The problem is that in Germany they have a very different sense of acceptability for advertising. And so they program and they produce those games in a very different way than we would do in the U.S. And it ends up having a very few ad avails, available for the redundant there for the advertisers to actually do some placements. So what about then use AI then to be able to real time be able to detect what's happening, when their timeout is happening, when there's, an opportunity to be able to insert and then predict essentially how much time, how much ad space that you have available in that. That's being able to use that then for this sort of alternative or this new sort of base of content, which may not have previously been monetized via advertising. This is a whole interesting new area that's being used already. The second one is in terms of brand identification. We went back, I talked about sponsorships being a big part of the revenue streams. Well, what do sponsors want? They want visibility. They want their brands to be known. It's it's another form, essentially advertising for them, as well as the brand connections piece for that. Well, the value that they get is really the value of when their ad is seen and the quality of that being seen. So if the camera's panning past it super fast, it's not as valuable. If it's sitting on it, great. If there's a player in the middle, that's not very good. All these different things, aspects are of quality assessment, being able to audit and sort of know, are you getting the value? That's great for the sponsor, but flip it on the other side for the owner, the person who's selling those sponsorship rights. That allows them to be able to say, "Well, look at the exposure you're getting. Look how many people, how many continuous minutes of quality minutes you're getting through these through that placement that you have there. You need to up what you give us if you want to be able to have that same. Otherwise, we'll swap you out for someone else. And for the third period of a hockey game, as an example. It also though creates signals for those ad placements as well. So that way, when there's Mike's Jersey Subs is there, why not put out a signal to say, hey, that to the advertising back end, be able to say, hey, the viewer has probably just seen a few ads or a few brand placements for Mike Jersey Subs. Maybe they would like to have an ad out. Maybe offer it up to Subway. Whatever. Those types of things. More ways to increase sort of the return that you have from an advertising point of view. And then last but not least here, ad ops effectiveness. Ad ops is tough, especially in live, to be able to do that. The numbers are crazy, for when you think about from a streaming standpoint. Linear is one thing. Being able to splice in an ad, you prepare ahead of time. You fail when you don't get that done. And so that really... You make sure that happens. But when you're talking about streaming, those are done, targeted wise. You're pulling them from an ad network, and there's many failure things that can happen. The numbers are surprising. If the highest quality creative gets there maybe 80% of the time in live production. So that means 20% of the time, the creative you wanted to get there, the ad that you wanted to be placed that would give you the highest return is not going to get there. So it gets replaced by something else that happened to be available to be able to serve up to that audience. And so that's industry. Proud to say that with the NBA that we did, we're at 99.9% being able to do those ad fills. So a lot of that is being able to prepare in advance and know how to react, be able to make sure the creatives are available, make sure the end-to-end happens so that way they are placed and served to the customer, and using AI to be able to help that effectiveness to prepare, to pre-place, to identify where those ads are possibly going to be placed. Those are ways to be able to, again, that's how you get your numbers up to the as close as you can to 100% served. Well, what about fan engagement then? What are some cool things that can happen for the viewer, the fan, who loves that sport and wants to be able to do things with it and sort of like be more immersive with that experience? Content enrichment is a big part of it. You can see this live with an NBA League Pass right now, where you can watch a game and switch different languages instantly, and it'll be done. They'll be using the same voice. We've seen it here, but doing it live now, where you're watching the announcer is speaking with the same color, enthusiasm that they have, but now it's in Portuguese. That is live now in League Pass. You can do it. I'm not sure how many languages are currently supported with that. I'd have to check and see, but try that out for yourself and see. Again, how do you do that? To be honest, you do have to put a delay in, but the delay is relatively short. The latency then between watching the live, the English version and the example of the NBA versus my example of the Portuguese version of it for it. That will get better and better as these models get smaller, so that way they can react faster and be able to have, rather than let's say a 5-second delay, let's say get down to a second or something like that. But the expansion of your audience, to be able to connect people in their native tongue, to get the same level of enthusiasm and everything like that. In the past, you couldn't afford to hire enough color commentators to be able to address the audiences that you wanted. It just wouldn't make sense. They weren't available. It would cost money, etc., and all that would be outside of it. But here now it's natural. It's easy. Now you could reach directly to all of your audiences and reach them where they are in terms of how they want to experience and do it. The next one, personalized ad highlight reels as well. Highlight reels have been a long time. There's many different companies who have specialized in doing those types of things. But what is new and what AI has been able to add into that is talking about being able to not just do a highlight reel, but do it that personalized to the individual viewer and their viewing history and their habits and who they identify with, giving more time to watch a certain player that they tend to lean in towards than they would, or maybe multiple replays of the goal that was scored or whatever for that. Choosing camera angles that maybe bias towards the players or the teams that they like versus others as well. And some of those camera angles are actually AI generated as well, because they're taking all the different camera angles and then using that to create a new camera angle that biases or focuses on individual players and what's happening within the action of the game as well. And then doing that in a way that's really cost effective. And the traditional way was doing it by literally taking and doing a complete new edit of highlight reel edit and then making that available as an asset. But that's, if you've personalized it, that gets pretty expensive real fast. So how do you do it in a way that is actually referencing and indexing into a single master of video, and then being able to play through each personalized essentially tour through those sets of master reels as well. Again, those are things that AI is really accelerated and be able to help make those even better. You'll see more of that. You'll see some of that coming out in some of our customers that I mentioned earlier as well over the next season. The next one, automated stat generation. This is something that Microsoft and the NBA did a lot of work on this year for this season, and also working with Hawkeye and some of the other people in the area. So where they have so many cameras out and so much data points, be able to just continually be able to do all the stat generation. We're not just talking about, oh yeah, he took a shot. We're talking about what was the speed that they was doing, what was the power that was placed in this movement, what was the rotational axis that they did. All those types of things are actually now measured in real time, and then real time available to the experience to the fan as well. So, think of it about it like whether you just love LeBron James or you have LeBron James in your fantasy league. You wanting to have that numbers to be able to see, he's not performing as well as the last game. Or look how much he increases, in third period versus the third quarter versus the second quarter. Those types of things. That's how people are using it, and that's sort of the exciting sort of direction that's going. And last but not least, I guess, is really just sort of the general sort of plug for how we approach this. We focus on the video workflows, the live video workflows, making them extremely reliable, make the quality be, industry-leading quality levels for that. Being able to work very closely with our customers to ensure that every single event goes off, without a hitch. Whether you're talking about 100 events that are going off on an NBA night, or you're talking about a weekend with a Premier League, and all those teams, 37 games are going across with that. That's what we focus on. But in those video pipelines, what we do then is enable the AI models to do what they need to do. So obviously for the operational things, maybe those are the models that are internalized, but we're talking about the video and how you utilize the video, whether it's for the advertising or the fan engagement pieces for that. What we do is we take the video and understand what is the use case for the AI part, and then what does the model need for it. Because if we just streamed that UHD content just into the AI model, boy, that bill would be really high. I guess Microsoft would love that, or any of the other modelers would love that, because it'd be super expensive, but it wouldn't make it worth it to be able to do the AI. So instead, what you need to do is, depending upon the use case, you may not take the whole frame or every frame or any of those types of things. And so what our workflows can do to be able to tailor the interaction with the model to be able to provide it the data that it needs for that specific use case, and then be able to make sure that support the prompt design, then be able to take the output of that. Some of that output's going to go into the business side of it. Some of it will be re-embedded back into the video. Some of it may be just as part of the streaming experience or to the broadcaster for them to be able to augment into the production or the final experience for the consumer. That's our job, is to be able to do bring those pieces together, and support, all the different models that are out there. We know models will change constantly. There's going to be a new model to do something new. You've seen in some of these other talks some really, really cool, great things. Well, those models now can be brought in to these workflows, and essentially then it's up to the designer, the production designer, to say, okay, what is it that I need to do? What am I trying to accomplish here? What is the right model to be able to use for it? So, I guess my last slide is just showing the NBA, blah, blah, blah. As I told you, sign up for League Pass, you can watch the audio one. So anyways, those were the items I wanted to talk through today. Hopefully it was helpful for you to understand, talk through live, and think about how it is so much harder to do a lot of these things in live. How can you solve for them? What are the things? The last things I talked about are key. Like, make sure that understand what you're trying to do, and then provide the model just the data it needs to be able to do it. How do you then bring that information back in, so that way, whether it's within the video to be consumed later, or whether it's into a business system, or into the advertising networks, et cetera. Those are all the key parts to be able to make sure it works. But overall, I think the key first slide is that AI for operational excellence. That's a key part of it. If you're going to be able to do this right in live, you need to make sure that you can't fail, that there's always a way for you to be able to solve the issue live at that moment in time and get the video out to the fan. Any questions? I have time in case it.
Well, my first question is, I'm a huge live events fan and huge sports fan, and I have finally made the jump from DirecTV to YouTube TV, and I'm in heaven with all of the features that YouTube TV has. But I'm curious, is your technology complementary to something that what Google's trying to do, where, for example, I can tune in to a live broadcast and I'm a little late to it, but it says catch up through key plays.
Yep.
And it somehow says, it figures out, what the key plays are and cues them up for me, and I can pause it. So do you dovetail with those kind of solutions, or is there a conflict between what you guys are trying to do and what they're trying to do because obviously they cover all the networks? Yeah.
So we work with our customers in a variety of different ways. So some of our customers, we do complete package, like end-to-end, and a lot of that's for an entity of which maybe doesn't have the in-house expertise to be able to do a lot of these pieces. So we'll step in and be able to do that. But others will go in, and then the opposite extreme is that we then provide very specific functional workflows to be able to get a job done for it. And so that would be maybe sort of your example would be there with YouTube TV, since they have all the experience from a live streaming and everything like that, but they want to be able to add that capability. So we work with customers in a range of different ways depending upon their set of needs. I mean, we particularly don't work with YouTube on that function. It's particular, but we actually do it with some others that are in that same sort of way, where it's complementing essentially what they do.
Great. Anyone else? Live sports? AI and live sports? Yeah.
Erik, if you had to speculate in terms of what happened during the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. I don't mean like the part where Mike Tyson came out in his underwear. I mean like the streaming pieces. If you have some thoughts.
I probably shouldn't comment.
That's okay. We all have to make a living, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe more go a little general about the challenges of streaming a live event when you've got 60 million viewers or
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah. So live streaming, the architecture and the approach you need to take for that is completely different than your approach you would do for on-demand assets. Okay? On-demand assets are really about making sure that at your cache points you've filled them with the assets that people want. Typically that's going to be on the network of which the person is viewing it, okay? And you can pre-stage it and validate it and make sure everything's set, and then it's available, and then you're happy and good. But you don't have that time on live. And so you need to think about how, when you out of production, essentially how you distribute, and how do you distribute in a multi-path way to be able to get to each of those then distribution points to the end users within those networks, and then do it in a way that also allows you to be able to move the traffic, essentially, because invariably what you predicted is wrong in terms of where the traffic is at any point in time.
So a streaming traffic jam, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Anyone else? Tom?
Speaking of that, is multicast used at all, that technology? It seems like even if it's not going multicast, obviously, to every home, you could at least get it to localized switches. And is that used? I'm just wondering.
So it's the problem is it's not, the networking for the most part does not support it. There are certain parts of the chain, the delivery chain, that do, and then yes, you definitely utilize it. Certainly, let's say there are certain aspects within the cloud infrastructure that will do it, but you can't egress that way. There are, once you're within a network itself, then you're most likely, or I should say, you may have allocation space to be able to do that. But to be honest, most of them, those operators are turning it off. So I won't mention exactly which one, but there's like one of the largest ones in the U.S. They've given a specific date in the matter of months of which it will be completely turned off across their network. So why? Because their revenue's all generated from unicast traffic. Yeah, they're following where their business is going there, but it's impacting another side of their business, and they have to make their own strategic decisions.
It was a very famous sports executive for ABC who quoted the term, "The answer to all of your questions is money." Nope, no question over here? Okay. Anyone else? Or shall we wrap for lunch? Anyone else? We got time for at least one more.
Oh, one more.
Okay, great.
Hi, sorry, I want to apologize because I came in late. So if you've already addressed this, I am really sorry. As someone that kind of operates paid media, I'm really interested in the retention numbers that Livestream gets across all sorts of industries. How do you see advertisers kind of making use of this and being able to put ads in Livestream? Yeah, I'd just love to know your thoughts about that.
So I'll rewind because you did miss, just so you can at least see some of these numbers of the value. Where is it? Right there. So the market in general everyone's been waiting for the market to shift, and it finally is, I would say, shifting from where the ad dollars are going. The ad dollars are maybe about even right now between linear and streaming, but streaming I'm putting to include all social media as well, okay? And so when you talk about narrowly just streaming itself, it's maybe about 10 to 15% of the traditional ad dollars, essentially are going towards that. But that's going at multiple fold a year, increasing and kind of accelerating. And mainly that's just because of all the rest of the market dynamics that are going on in terms of where people aren't subscribing to the cable bundle, and people, maybe aren't putting up an antenna on the roof, and so they need to watch it. And so how are they going to watch it? They're going to watch it. They're going to do YouTube TV, or they're going to sign up for NBA League Pass or whatever, those types of things. And so consumer demand is pushing it, plus just business decisions that are being made, like the multicast thing, which are saying, I'm going to get out of the video business. I'm just going to sell my internet traffic. That's going to be my score. So then that means someone needs to find it another way. And so the trend is there. It's accelerating. I think the key, these are just some interesting key things to see the value and see why live has such has a much higher value to the advertisers space. Is that helpful?
Yeah, just to further define.
Yeah.
On-air promotions. Oh, sorry. Further define on-air promotions. There's spoken out louds. There's read out loud. There's read ads. I'm thinking more like banners, commercial breaks. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah. So those tend to fit under the sponsorship deals. Is how they're done. So they're, so that is traditionally that's been. A very loosely negotiated, value and sort of cost for piece for it, but with a lot of the capabilities that are going on with AI and other things like that, it's now they even quantify it much more in terms of to really see, well, how many people really did see the banner that was there, or did hear the plug that was done, or notice that the athlete picked up a Powerade versus a Gatorade, or whatever, those types of things. And so with the data, then they're able to negotiate much better terms for that and be able but actually, conversely, the sponsors know the value that they're getting, rather than just kind of, saying, "Oh well, yeah, I'll pay $1 million a year to sponsor the Pelicans."
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, Erik. Thank you for everyone who was asking the questions and attending.